Hello everyone, Airmax here. This year might be finally the year of the Linux desktop. Woo! Okay, guys, calm down. Might not be this year, but the good news is that some website released a number about the fact that now Linux represents 3% of the total market share worldwide. At least this is what they say. So let's dive into it. I believe Tom Hardware was the first website to share the big news. And obviously, like every eyes was looking at it because 3% is an all-time high for Linux since its creation, for the desktop environment, of course. If you think about server, specific hardware, and everything else, like almost everything run under Linux, except the desktop. As they mentioned, what is actually really cool is that the Linux share doubled from 1.64% into 2018 to around 3% in 2023, which means like in the span of 5 years, Linux desktop share doubled. I repeat, it doubled in 5 years. If we can keep up the rhythm, it could be huge. So by reading the article, you can tell they have their own little theory about why and why not. But on my perspective, I just want to go and dive a little bit more inside the number. So you know me, the first thing I did was to go on the website and try to understand how the data was actually gathered. And they have a FAQ on their website. I'm going to put a link in the description below for you guys if you want to have an idea like of everything, or even if you want to extract your own number. Everything is available for the public. And they have a FAQ in which they actually ask the question, how accurate are stat counter global stat? This is a difficult question to answer. To be honest, we recommend you to consider our methodology in order to make your own decision regarding on how accurate our stats are for your purpose. Here is some information to review. In terms of size sample, stat counter global stat are based on analysis of more than 5 billion pages view, more than 1.5 million websites per month. We are not aware of any other publicly available service providing market share stat that has bigger sample size on which they base their information. I won't read everything, but I think what is really interesting is that you can go deeper into the data and check which country has the higher sample. Because in my opinion, the higher sample, the more accurate the data is going to be. That's the first point. Second point, and you will see in this page, is that whatever data they gather all across the globe, they don't weigh it for the global result. Because when you look at worldwide, you expect the data to be kind of weighted, you know, in the middle, saying like, even if we have less data in a big country, we're going to weight higher because it will mean that because they have more users over there, it will take a higher share of the market globally. But they don't do that. They just give the number raw. So this is something you have to take in consideration. The third point is the way they gather the data is a little bit different from what you expect. It's based on websites. So they actually suck the data out of the browser. Most of the browser, they kind of like gave info about the operating system they use. But sometimes it can be a little bit tricky. I don't know. Yeah, like it could be like a little bit inaccurate for multiple of reasons. For example, on my own case scenario, I use my own DNS server, like that I can block some of the website I don't want have access to or share information with. And their website was actually in my blacklist. So when I look at the number first, I just couldn't ping their site, which means like my data, for example, will never be pushed towards their website. And by thinking that most of the Linux users are already conscious, like they take in consideration a lot of like their privacy, I'm pretty sure their website is going to be totally like pushed away or blocked by their DNS server, their operating system. You get it. Those 3 points I think are really important. And again, like take those numbers with a grain of salt, even if they are pretty encouraging to my perspective. So let's dive a little bit deeper. Now you understand the whole concept. So here is a slide like they were talking about in the article. Here, nothing crazy. You can see like Windows is slowly getting down. You can see like this dip here. And you can see this upper line here. So the first key takeaway, we have like unknown operating system here. you can see that the dip for Windows is related to the unknown here, and then it comes back up. So my guess is like when Windows upgrade, there is some type of like discrepancy in the data for them to actually understand it's still Windows. So you have those dip. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second key takeaway, I would say, like after this, is the fact that OS X is growing market share like crazy. In a span of 1 year, they went from, let's say, 15% to 21%. Solid. It's just huge. And then you have Chrome OS, which is based on Linux, by the way. Then you have Linux here with 3.08%. And you can see those two are pretty stable, but Chrome OS is definitively gaining momentum with like 2%, almost 2% gain in 1 year. The Linux moving from 2.42% to 3%, which is like 0.5% increase. Still an increase. So I'm like, yeah, that seems okay. I'm a little bit shocked by the increase for the operating system created by Apple, but why not? The overall trend is like Windows is losing market share to their opponent, and the big winner here is definitively Apple. So, you know me, I had to go a little bit deeper into the number, and when I look at their website, you can edit the chart. The more further you can go is January 2009. So I'm like, let's see how it was there, huh? Like let's have an idea. And here is a graph. And you can see almost like 15 years ago, Windows was dominating like hardcore. And now look where they are at. They lose so much momentum. They went from like 95% of market share to 68% of market share. And look at Apple, 4% to 21%. It's crazy. I'm really impressed by those numbers. So that's a big key takeaway in my opinion. Looking at those curves, Windows is not where it's at anymore. And I believe the most of users are still believing like 15 years ago where Windows was to go to, and they still don't see the alternatives that could be really, really good. So what happened to Windows? Let's try to dive into it. From 2009 to 2023, you have all the different versions of Windows here. Windows 7, XP, Windows 10, Vista, 11, 8.1, 8, and the .1 here, I dive into the number. It's actually Windows 11 here. Those graphs are wonderful. Like I could spend hours talking about them, but I will really focus on what's coming for the future. So first things first, Windows 7 is still super popular. Late 2022, still have 11% using Windows 7, which is just incredible. Like those guys are just saying like, no, I don't want to jump to Windows 10 or Windows 11. I'm out. I'm staying there. Then you have Windows 10 here, which is having like one of the biggest momentum ever compared to all the other operating system except like XP. I'm guessing XP was really high up there. And you can see like Windows 10 is the most successful after Windows XP, like operating system for Microsoft. And they are keeping like a solid like 71.9% of market share within the Microsoft environment, which is pretty good. But when you look at the future here, Windows 11, and you look at the curve, like how fast is the adoption of Windows 11, it doesn't look good, guys. Because when you compare this to Windows 10, you can see like there is no momentum. It's not working out for this operating system. So maybe with the next one, Windows 12, I guess, they might have better momentum, but you can see here, like people, they just don't want to upgrade. And when I look at a lot of comments or YouTube video or article I'm reading, nobody want to jump in. Like everybody try to stay on Windows 10, and especially the gamer, because there is a latency issue with Windows 11, and it kind of like added like some type of complexity that most of the competitive gamers, they don't want to have to deal with. It's really bad for them. And it kind of shows a trend, like Windows is slowing down. Whether you like it or not, the numbers are here. Now, just a really quick deep dive into OS X. And here, I hope I'm pronouncing this thing well. You can see like the strategy of and renewal is pretty steady. In terms of operating system, I know nothing about it, but they went from like renewing the operating system, I would say every 1 year and a half, to not renewing and just staying on this operating system called Catalina. When you look at the Apple user, it seems like most of them, they kind of enjoy it. And there is no like, you know, this effect you have seen on Windows operating system where people, they just want to stay on the old one. Like you can see everybody is migrating. So obviously I don't know the in and out of the operating system because I don't own any Apple product, like none. I had a really bad experience with the first iPhone I bought at the time because it was revolutionary. But when I wanted to switch to something else, I got kind of stuck in their ecosystem. And I was like, I'm done with Apple. I'm never buying anything from Apple. And I kept my word to this. I may be missing out, but I'm telling you, like, that's my perspective. That's why I don't know a lot about it. But it's kind of still interesting to look the way they kind of evolved and what makes them successful. So I don't know the whole picture there. If you have any idea, like, please, like, comment in the chat because I'm kind of, like, curious to have your perception towards that. Of course, you know me, I have to dive a little bit deeper into this because I was like, yeah, this is fun. It doesn't tell the whole story again. So you know me, I had to dive deeper. Yes, deeper. So you know me, I had to dive deeper. So what did I do? I went to the FAQ and they have a full list of sample size per country. And I was like, let's look at the top 3 there. In terms of sample size, to have a good idea of what's going on in the increase of market share for Linux. Like what is the story behind it? Because when I downloaded like the full data, some of the numbers, they look really, really hot to me. And I think not taking in consideration the sample size will be telling us a story which is kind of far from the reality. And I think for me, like if you want to go really near the reality, you need to look at the big sample size, not the smallest one, because they don't weigh the data. All right, so we start with the first and biggest sample size, the United States of America. And here I'm going to be focusing only on Linux. You can see we start at 2.14% in June 2022, and we finish at 1.96% in June 2023. So the story is totally different. What I can tell you here, numbers are going down in the US. So guys, what are you doing? I thought like USA was all about freedom. So let's be free and use Linux. Like guys, what is this? Okay, I'm just kidding. You get it. Yeah, you're not helping us in the number. But I respect you. Now, country number 2, India. We are moving from 4.34%, which is a big number, in June 2022 to 13.8% in June 2023, which means in 1 year, the sample tripled. Hello? I'm like, oh my gosh. You see it there. Linux in place number 2 with 13.8%. So I guess in India, you guys understood the business there. I'm pretty impressed. So it's just crazy for me that almost 14% of the users right now in India are using Linux. It just drives me insane. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Kudos to you guys. You're awesome. I guess like most of you guys tried it and realized that it was not that bad, huh? Because if the number keep growing over there, you guys got it. So now the third country in terms of sample size, and this is Turkey or Turkey or like not the animal from Thanksgiving, the other one, the country, Turkey. And here the user went from 4% to 6.52%. So they didn't double, but I think it's like almost like 50% increase. Like correct me in the comment if I'm wrong. I'm just using my head and sometimes I'm just not that good at math, but it's pretty good. Like you can see there, Chrome OS is like negligible and everybody use Linux. So guys, kudos to you, and like the increase is pretty big. All right, how do we conclude this video? I would say first, don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Go take a look at my Patreon or my YouTube membership. It will really help. I count on you guys. But I would say overall, those numbers, whether they are super accurate or not, they kind of show a trend that I personally felt for the last 2 or 3 years. Linux desktop is growing. Even if you didn't install it yet, you still think about it as an alternative. You are maybe using it because you own a Steam Deck. You deep down, like, you know, like it's getting into our mind. you can also like see the overall like increase of like topic and discussion on internet via, you know, YouTube, forum. There is more and more people talking about Linux. And there is definitely a reason behind it. The purpose of this channel is not to convert you to Linux, but just to show you there is an alternative. I always say that on my stream, and I repeat it. But I like to think that in certain part of the world, after looking at this number, people went from just thinking about it to try it and then adopt it. And when it does, you can see the number are going really high. Like the number in India are just insane. It's insane. At this rhythm, like 15 years from now, like nobody's gonna be using Windows anymore if they don't come with something drastically different. Because Linux is just like exploding over there. It's crazy. And that's, I think, like the outcome of this video. Yes, it's growing slowly. Yes, people are making fun of us, saying like, oh yeah, you finally reach 3%, hoo. Nobody cares. Well, it's not true. Maybe in your country that's the case. But there is definitely some place in the world where Linux is getting a huge momentum. And again, there is a reason behind it. I do believe that this operating system is great and everybody should give it a try. You don't like it, that's okay. You like it? Yep. That's good, huh? Alright, I'm out. Guys, thanks for watching. See you in the next one. And as always, bisous bisous.